What is up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Sibling Rival-Read, the comic book club show that my sister and I sit here and host, where we pick out a comic book every week and read it and talk about story and art. I'm one of your hosts, Kai Kenobi, sitting here with me, far, far away, my sister, Anakin.
Oh, but
Hey.
all the jokes.
All of the jokes. How are you this evening?
I'm alive.
Yeah.
Last week went by way too quickly, so I'm doing like mental catch up. You?
Can't complain. I read this really long comic book this week, and I'm pretty sure that's all I did this week. I think I worked at some point too, but this
I did this
long.
comic in a day, and I hated you for it. Which
Beginning.
totally my fault for doing it in a day, but damn.
I mean, I did ask you early on in the week, like, if you'd even started, and I
Which
had
I
mentioned it's a long book.
read a couple pages. I just don't consider that like a fair start. So yeah.
Definitely not. Definitely not. So this week on our comic book club, I chose the book. It is Zatanna by Paul Dini. There are a few other writers as well. The main creator behind it was Paul Dini. And the main artist behind most of it was Stefan Rue. Um, as you can see on, if you're watching live, you can see on the panel over there, right over there. The all the writers, artists, colorists, letterers, and so forth. If you're listening on a podcast streaming service, welcome. This is our second episode that's live as a podcast. There was quite a bit of requests to have this show available in a podcast format. So I went ahead and did my best to get all of that taken care of this week.
Which is exciting, and now everyone gets to hear Hank bark in their ears.
Exactly. And no one has an excuse of, oh, well, I don't have time to sit and watch it on YouTube or on Twitch. Now we can be wherever you
I would hate you for that if I had headphones on.
um, so, without further ado, because of the way that we're doing this as a podcast, I'm going to change up the format a little bit on my sister here.
Without any warning.
Exactly. The main format change we're going to do is the book summary. Especially for a 430 page book. Sure. We're going to not do a full summary. But what we will do is a quick background on the character that is Zatanna. She is a magician, so to speak.
But a real one.
Yes. She deals with real magic. Essentially, anything that she says backwards magically happens, which is fun to read and kind of confusing at times. I don't know about you, but when I was reading some of it, like I would try to read the sentence backwards, not just the words backwards.
Oh, I just read everything forwards. Because, in text, you can obviously read it and figure out what it says. I 100% did that. A couple of times I said them out loud just because I thought it'd sound cool.
Did it?
It did. I mean, or it would have if I knew how to say
Maybe
things
that should
back.
be one of our like wheel of torture things. Is we have to speak all of our words backwards for
That would be so hard. It would be
yeah.
like Bonnie from the Wild Thornberries.
Yes.
That took you way too long.
No, I heard Bonnie and I'm like, who's Bonnie? Oh,
Donnie.
Donnie. Yeah, yeah. And because of the nature of Zatanna's powers being a lot more mystical than any other hero, especially in the DC universe, or at least a lot of heroes in the DC universe. Um, it lends itself to a lot more almost just like supernatural kind of story arcs and storylines. And one of my main reasons for wanting to read Zatanna is when the New 52 launched, however long ago that was. I got really, really into the Justice League Dark comics. And Justice League Dark had Zatanna as one of the heroes in it, along with John Constantine, Swamp Thing. There were a few others, and it was really cool because again, it was all very supernatural,
Mhm.
and it was just different than any other comics that I was reading, and I wanted to read more, and I mean, who doesn't love a tall, beautiful woman with black hair and fishnets, right?
All right. I
So
feel like she also lends to pop culture a lot more now than she probably did when she first came out, in terms of drawing an audience with all the demon lore and like supernatural going on, Lucifer going on, all of those TV shows. I feel like she ties in relatively well with that to bring in a bigger audience to want to read her comics. That and she's just awesome and underrated.
she was a really um, interesting hero to read, and one of the things that I found super interesting was her home base essentially was in San Francisco.
Yeah, it didn't make you homesick.
It actually did. There was this like one scene where she's like moving around and being very happy that she's home in San Francisco, and she's like, there's not a place on in any realm or any dimension that has a better taqueria than San Francisco, and I'm like, oh, I really miss my food in San Francisco, but I don't miss the cost of living. I do not miss the cost of living one bit.
Well, I mean, she made millions, so really.
It's true. It did not matter. And she could also just zip to her mansion in Gotham at the utter
I,
of a phrase.
yeah, backwards.
Um, and yeah, it was really interesting. Another thing I found really interesting about that is how often do DC comic heroes live in real cities?
Yeah.
And again, it's not something that's like really important or anything like
Okay, it might
that.
not be to you now, but when I first started comics, that was like your go-to for why I should read DC over Marvel, was because they were super creative with coming up with their own towns.
Yeah, and I still hold true to that. I think DC has done a really good job creating a universe. I think still at the end of the day, I know this is where we differ. I'm still a Marvel boy, and you're going to be the DC girl. Um, but yeah, so essentially like Justice League Dark, and then the little bit of what's the one that you like that
Young Justice? Are you talking about the show?
bombshells.
Bombshell. Oh my god, I loved her in Bombshells. Although I
Yeah,
just really love Bombshells. I think it's a super creative comic that we will probably read at some point on this.
yeah.
But yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think she was just incredibly interesting, and again, I'm a sucker for some good lore, you
Yeah.
know. And
I will say I didn't know most of this lore.
no, I'm not. Demon lore is not my strong suit in any way, shape, or form. But it was interesting, kind of remember when I don't know, did you ever watch the Keanu Reeves Constantine movie?
No, but doesn't Constantine have a show now?
Constantine does have a show. I've not watched it.
I haven't either, but I have it on my list, and I didn't even know there was a Keanu Reeves version. So I'm like, wow,
So
okay.
it's not the best movie in the world, but it's interesting, and I like how the beginning of this did have that intersection with John Constantine and Zatanna.
Mhm.
Um,
And it was the very beginning, so it like introduced you to a very cute and unique sense of humor.
oh yeah, I mean that is 100%. Yeah, it was very much it was very much John Constantine, um, and I was there for it. Um, but like one of the things that we've been doing with a lot of these books is we've been choosing like one story arc and reading through it. Um, with one of our big things not being we're not going to read a whole series. Um, and this isn't necessarily a whole series, but Zatanna was a limited run that Paul Dini was able to do over the course of a year. So he was able to release 12 issues, and that's what got put into this book. So there are a couple of story arcs in it, not just one smooth one. So that being said, Anna, what did you think of the flow of Zatanna?
Overall, um, I thought that it flowed quite nicely. There were a few like jumps here and there that didn't make so much sense to me in terms of the flow of the story. Like there was that random Halloween insert, which was gorgeous, but there was that random Halloween insert. There was the demon boy dimensional time travel or
Oh yeah,
one that
from
stole the book that was also kinda random. However, that one seemed like it tied in more to existing comics around it, potentially. So, I mean, it could be
yeah.
that I just felt it was random in the moment, but when it came out, it very much went with the flow of the DC universe really well. Um, but I mean, overall, I thought it was a really nice flow. I mean, it very much in the first couple of actually in the first issue established how frequently Zatanna travels. So I mean, you never felt like it was unbelievable from her to go to one place to the other given how frequently she enjoys working and the whole magic aspect. I will say within a single issue, the whole puppet one lasting for like months irritated me.
Oh. Yeah, that one jumped around quite a bit, and I was kind of taken aback by how that particular arc went.
Yeah.
Um, but I didn't think it was a bad arc. I think I really liked. I personally loved the Brother Knight arc.
That one was probably my favorite. Although I did really like the first arc with her cousin Zachary.
Yes.
The second one where you meet Zachary also is kind of like random a little bit with a succubus.
Well, yeah, but yeah. Because what the first run with Brother Knight or with her cousin Zachary was the casino, right?
Yes.
With the greedy demon.
Yeah, and I think the only reason why I'm also like this the succubus one was a kind of like a little random and everything like that was because when you first meet Zachary, he's complaining about how poor he is, and then you go to the next issue that you see him and he's like seems to be rolling in it. So it's like, okay,
It's like,
not
oh,
only
so
are you a butt in this issue, but you're a butt with money.
yes, he was a butt with money. Um, yeah, I really there were so many really cool arcs in this, and like usually I'd be like, oh, don't try to read an entire series, but this is one where, like, after going through it, I kind of want to read it again, just for the sheer fact that I don't know, I want to understand it more.
Yeah. I wanna read more Zatanna, and I almost wish that the Brother Knight arc was a little bit longer, almost kinda like a Court of Owls type of a thing, because
Uh-huh.
I think that that villain could lend itself well to that long of
Well,
a
and they didn't finish Brother Knight
I
in this
they
book.
ended the volume with quite a few loose ends that I did not appreciate.
No, not at all. But here's the thing. This did exactly what I want these things to do for our listeners and our readers is it makes me interested to read more Zatanna, like find more and figure out what happens here because this was,
Especially with the whole, "My father is Brother Knight."
yeah, with the what was his name, Detective Colton.
I don't remember. I just remember that Zatanna thought he was pretty and Mickey or Mikey was making fun of her for it.
Oh yeah, Mikey was hilarious too.
I thought
Her,
that all of, like, the main reoccurring characters, of her crew were fantastic.
yeah, and talk about a book that's kind of ahead of its time. In at least that I would find to be trans friendly or LGBTQ friendly because
Overall, yeah, yes. It was very
Mikey
inclusive.
was like, no, I'm I'm a girl, and Zatanna was like, yeah, here you go. Um, because it should be that easy.
But that was an awesome little thing, and then you continuously see her, I thought was fantastic.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I mean, her manager and one of her other crew members were in a relationship, and it was just a very progressive for when was it made? Like, when was it?
I think it was. Oh gosh.
And I mean,
Wait,
I'm saying progressive, I mean, most pop culture is. So I guess maybe that's kind of
I had it
moot.
open before. Let me look it up. Um, what about so the brother? What was your favorite story arc to follow in this? Was it Brother Knight or?
I enjoyed the Brother Knight series. I really want an extended version, especially with how it ended, in this Zatanna. Like, I also think that just the scope that Brother Knight has as a villain, um, would be super interesting to follow. And I liked the small snippets of Black Canary and Vixen in the very beginning of the Brother Knight series or story arc because I thought initially that that was gonna become a thing
Oh
that
yeah.
they would
So
Justice League would help with the whole Brother Knight in a large scope, not necessarily as the main villain and everybody attacks the main villain, but as the whole every demon and
yeah.
mobster in San Francisco.
Well, and then there is the Black Canary and Zatanna series.
Mhm.
Uh, that's on our list of books that we want to read as well. Okay, featuring the that was created.
Yeah.
Okay, so this mini series launched in July of 2010, and then the collected edition of it actually came out in 2017.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's a very long time to wait for a collected edition.
right. Um, I think the other thing that I did enjoy that I feel like I usually don't enjoy is the different styles of art through each story arc. um, because like usually it kind of takes me out of it, and I'm like, okay, what am I reading now? And it did confuse me with like Trick or Treat, where that
It
was an
me
incredibly drastic.
But it
Um,
was beautiful. It
it
was also
was,
very short, like,
yeah,
I
it was like
almost feel
four
like that was
pages.
probably at the end of an actual issue, just as, like, an extra thing.
Yeah,
I don't think that was
um,
actually standalone.
but I was a big fan. I really there were a lot of things about Zatanna in general that I really enjoyed. Um, I
Her character
think
has a fun, different type of depth to her.
yeah. And like every superhero, she has dead parents, and um, she's her current dead parent though just happens to every once in a while be used against her,
Well, and
thanks
she
to
says that she talks to him frequently, so
yes.
or frequently, but enough.
Um, that was one of the things I found kind of neat about the museum episode issue.
But it was very episodic, so I mean, I
Yeah.
think that episode is just as usable in that regard.
Yeah, where like all all of the items from other magic users
Mhm.
were there. And I don't know, I really like all of the again when it comes to this kind of lore. Something that you consistently see across all like kind of demon lore is if a demon knows your name, or if you have the name of the demon, there's a lot of power that comes with a name, and I
Like
just
Rumpelstiltskin.
yeah, like Rumpelstiltskin.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and overall, I enjoyed it, and I think looking at uh, looking at the book from a new reader perspective, um, I do think you would definitely need to be interested in the character of Zatanna to pick this book up. But if you're a fan of things like Supernatural or I would even say like shows like Grimm,
Yeah.
um, or I don't know, like Lucifer, or even
Yeah, I
I might
said
even I mean
yeah.
I might even throw in like some X-Files vibes
Okay.
like there's a little more thriller aspect to it than other comic books that you
Yeah, I'm
read.
trying to it's a lot of fun to read. I do don't I I think I disagree slightly with like you have to have an interest in Zatanna, mostly just because I mean, unless you have an interest in any specific superhero as a standalone, you're probably not going to pick it up. But if you have a desire to like just dip your toe in the water of Zatanna more than getting to know her full character, I think that this gives you a very reader friendly introduction. Because I mean, I haven't read much aside from her in Bombshells and a couple JLA comics, and I never even thought to pick up a Zatanna comic as a standalone, but I did really enjoy it as a introduction.
That is fair, and she is present in um, other DC things. Like she comes up in
A
the
lot of crossover.
yeah, like she work. Oh, excuse me. She works with the Justice League. Fair. Oh my gosh, fairly regularly. She has a healthy fear of puppets, um, and
Not
yeah.
anymore.
Well, yeah, that's true. Did you say she appeared in Young Justice?
Yeah, she like Young Justice, the TV show.
Yeah.
Yeah, she ended up becoming like a main part of the team in the first. season? Or this
I really
Yeah,
need to
in the
rewatch Young
second
Justice.
season, you only see her in a couple episodes, and the second season, you see her in the first or second episode when she wishes Dick Grayson a happy birthday, and he says, "Say it backwards." Because when Constantine said that, when she said goodbye and all that, I heard it in that voice, and I go, "Ah, funny."
Uh, I need to rewatch it because I don't remember her in it at all. Oop,
Well,
sorry.
you can wait until I come, so that way
Yeah, that's true. Speaking of, so for the month of March's issues, we will be in person recording, which will be
Yeah.
nice. Um,
My
so
dog. Yeah.
let's talk art.
Okay, I mean, you said a little bit about the art, and you felt like it didn't, that the different art styles didn't break up the story for you, which I agree because I didn't find there to be much in terms of variation or much in terms of like a creative outlet of going super out there,
Uh-huh.
except with Halloween, which I will commend Halloween for doing that because I loved the style. It was very random in terms of like how everything else looked. It was kind of random. Um, the issue covers were gorgeous, and
The
it's just one
issue
of those
covers
things.
were
It
amazing.
just hurts me that the artist that does the covers don't do the interior because I feel like that would be so gorgeous and so interesting to look at.
Yeah, but you also have to think the people who do the cover art are doing big scenes and might
I
not.
know. Oh my goodness, my dog.
Yeah, he
I
is.
know.
You know what my favorite cover art was?
Hmm.
Um, the tarot card one.
The tarot card one was gorgeous.
Like that.
Um,
That is. If you're watching on YouTube or on stream right now, I've got that one up on over here. Um, but this one was just like, oh my gosh.
I liked the I don't feel like there was one that I didn't like. I feel like all of those cover arts are very poster worthy.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Um,
And I think that's part of the point of them. Like her being a big hotshot magician.
yeah, they were all kind of like poster-esque for
Yeah.
her. Yeah, that's true. Um,
So I thought it thematically fit very well.
yeah. Uh, I did have a few favorites and then like a couple honorable mentions, although like really quickly character-wise, I did really like the Nightmare Demon. He was very Smeagol-esque and he was
Yes,
adorable.
I agree.
He
The
was adorable. I mean, in a bad way, obviously, but he was awesome. I liked him.
I like that he came back later in the book too, as like
Yeah, and that, when he saw her, he goes, "No." He very much did not like the prospect of having to
dealing with
team
her
up
again.
again. He
Yep.
was, "Oh." Um, but I will say I think my all-time favorite panel was whereas, like, most of my favorite panels are in, the Brother Knight arc, because I
Hmm.
think it explored, a really cool concept into it with the whole dream element and the father coming back, and I think all of my favorite panels were, for the most part, the dream element except for one.
Hmm.
So my all-time favorite one was that, nightmare panel that's the full page illustration that's in the warm tones with a touch of blue, just because that one, to me, very much, lived up to my expectations based on the cover art.
Yeah, and so that one is also very like so you say warm tones with a touch of blue.
Yeah.
I like the contrast that's shown between the two because like all of the warm tones are the dream or the nightmare, and then the blue is her in the real world.
Mhm. It was
And
a gorgeous metaphor.
yeah, and it is such a cool and it's full page art, but it is a cool page with like
A
the
million things to look at.
it really does like creepy freaking rabbits with dog teeth and snakes and the skeleton, like Jack of Spades and Queen of Diamonds reaching out of the card, grabbing at Zatanna. Like
Yeah,
it's all really cool. Um,
agree. I mean, obviously. Was this
yeah,
one of your favorite panels also?
it was one of my favorite panels. I think more of my favorite panels were in the puppet, uh,
No.
the puppet ones.
Uh-huh.
Just because I liked how the panels looked. I liked what all of that did. Um, I think my all-time favorite was that tarot card cover. I know we don't usually count
I
the
don't count
covers,
covers.
but it's so nice, and I keep going back to it.
But I did feel like the panel that I picked also emulated the covers pretty well.
Yes, I
Um,
agree.
it's had that very it's I just I could look at it for forever. So pretty. Another one that I did like as my second favorite panel and it's in was the one where she dispels all of the innocent souls from Brother Grimm.
Brother Knight,
Brother yes, Brother Knight. He looks grim.
he does look
Um,
pretty grim.
um, yeah, Brother Knight.
That one
I
is
I liked the
another.
emotion that it captured. It had a beautiful, illustration of the souls coming out.
It does, and they look so peaceful
Yeah,
coming
and
out.
that's
It's like I feel like whenever you see a lot of ghosts and souls leaving something, they always look like they're in pain doing so. But the artist here did this thing where it's like you're like, oh, thank God, finally.
yeah, and I mean, they were also kids, so I wouldn't want them
Yeah.
to look horrified or anything like that, but and Zatanna's smile mixed with that and kind of the horror struck of them coming out of,
Oh yeah, and
Brother
the running eye makeup and all of that, like just
Mhm.
details that were
Yeah.
great.
I mean, there were so many, like, really small individual panels. It was like, "Oh, gorgeous, amazing, well done." And all of them, for me, were in the Brother Knight first arc
Yeah.
with the broken glass for, Sitara's, like, dead memories, and the I can't say his name, like, I couldn't really read it either, so I just kept calling him Smeagol. Um, the nightmare demon entering Zatanna's mind with her hair whipping, and the
Oh,
demon in it was also gorgeous. I think that this arc for me, art-wise, was absolutely astounding. Not that the others weren't, it was just all of the others for me were kind of like, "Oh, okay."
it's one of those where it's
Like a DC
definitely
comic.
difficult to pick one.
Mhm.
Um, because yeah, they the art is just it's beautiful. It is it's good
Yeah.
and like it does a good job of being dark without being. This is gonna sound
Gory.
like really cheesy. Yeah, it's dark without being gory, and there's always a bit of light.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't say like it's balanced light and dark, but you know,
They have fun comedic elements for I mean, Zatanna's not I don't wanna say she's a dark character, but
she
she
is
has
not.
more unforgiving tendencies than or more flexibility than most superheroes that you'll read. Like, comparing Zatanna to Superman, Superman is all black and white, and Zatanna's world is a very gray world that you're reading, which is really interesting
Oh,
from the
and
superhero point of view.
there's that fun fact that Zatanna is a direct counter to Superman, since one of Superman's biggest weaknesses is magic.
Mhm. Yeah,
It's
but
the
I
silliest
I
thing.
I think that was one of my favorite things also reading her was that she would leave demons alone essentially. Like she'd warn them and just be like, that's it. Or yeah, I get that you have to do this type of a thing, but there's a
Right.
line that you have to draw in the sand. Same with when you're introduced to Brother Knight. She kind of is like, he does what he does in the demon world, and you kind of got to let him be, but he can't come into this world. And so that was a very interesting hero villain dynamic that you were introduced to, that I was like, wow, that's different.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I just also really like the magic illustration elements with the bright gold.
Uh-huh. No, the way that they illustrate her power is fun. You know, it fits the the theme of her being a stage magician.
Hmm.
Like why wouldn't it have a lot of flair and pizzazz
Yeah.
to it? Um so yeah, like I really I enjoyed each arc of these for very different reasons, and I loved the art in the brother knight one, but I enjoyed the kind of classic comic book style that um the beginning of the puppet arc had, and
Hmm.
I enjoyed seeing uh what was it, like Jana, the
Oh, I love
psychiatrist?
the therapist. Yeah, she was cool. Her changing.
Yeah, and the art for her dress,
Oh my god, from a costumer standpoint, like I would love that to be a movie just to see her dress.
just to see her dress like actually made of starlight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be awesome.
No, I agree, and I think that is, and again, so like part of the art that I really liked about that issue was when she was remembering what happened to her as a kid and using Facili as as that bridge,
Mhm.
and then waking up with a creepy puppet tying her to the bed. Not what I would consider a good time, but it was neat. The only art that I would say I did not like was and it's not even that I would say I didn't like it. It's just it was very I didn't like their noses. The first few issues, the noses were like huge. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah, I will say that the character representation for Zatanna and other characters became more attractive later in the issue or in the volume that we were reading. I did not find a lot of the panels in the first couple of issues to be flattering,
Uh-huh.
and like for a lack of a better word.
Yes.
Uh,
No, no, I agree. Um but yeah, that's why I really enjoyed um the art for the puppet one. It was very classic comic book style.
yeah,
Um
I'm looking, and I do like the sketchy quality in a lot of the scenes.
uh-huh.
It speaks to the tone of that issue also, because I feel like as dark as, the Brother Knight one was, this one was just terrifying because I feel like it's a lot of people's nightmare or, like, fear are those puppets. Like, I one of my best friends in high school still hates dolls for, like, the life of her.
Uh-huh.
Um, and so for that, like, the sketchy quality lent itself to a more horror-esque feel.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Suspenseful feel, suspenseful is probably the
It
better word.
fit with the thriller like.
Yeah.
Um it fit
I
with
will
the
say I
theme
hope
of
they don't
the
kill the dodo.
what?
I liked the dodo.
Oh,
I will say I really hope the puppet didn't kill the dodo because I liked that dodo.
gotcha. Um, and then I just want to talk about some of what the funniest art that I think existed in this book. And you know, it's not going to be a topic that comes up often as far as like funniest art of the book, but when she got her braces
Okay.
and was
And
like
got them.
and was really trying to like use her magic, and then when she finally did use her braces to incarcerate her foe, that was just like, I'm looking at that, I'm like, that is disgusting.
On the bright side, though, they were new.
Yeah, I guess, but she was still spitting all over the place, so they were well
Okay,
worn.
I will say you and I have both had braces, and I don't remember it being hard to talk.
I don't remember it being hard to talk either.
I was like, it was funny to read, but I was like, that did not happen.
And I don't remember spitting all over the place while wearing braces either.
No, but I mean, like, once you get anything done with your mouth, you're kind of like
A little
numb.
drooly and
So you're
yeah.
drooly. Yeah. So I mean, that one I was like, okay. I don't know why she tried eating a taco, but okay.
And she just got him. She didn't know. You can't blame her for that.
They said before she left, no solid foods.
You can't blame her.
It's okay, Zatara, let her have a good meal before
So,
committing her to 2 years of braces.
so here's what I don't understand. They are
Hmm.
able to cast magic. How could they not just say like teeth straighten?
That's what I'm wondering when he picked her up and was like, "Oh, I'm gonna spend a fortune on your braces, but it'll totally be worth it." And she goes, "But I have one favor." And I go, "You gonna ask him if he'll fix his teeth for you? Because that's what I would do." And then
Yeah,
she asks for a taco.
yeah,
Family has weird priorities.
it does. Um, and then the other like funny arc that I enjoyed that I almost forgot about was when she started speaking in palindromes, so that the guy reversing time couldn't stop her magic.
That one was just funny.
It really was.
It was cute, and the detective coming on was very like, "No, stop."
Please, please, no more. Um, but yeah, lots of good arts.
Mhm.
Um, I guess we
Mm.
should talk about our ratings then.
Wow,
Or
I feel like that went by so quickly for, like, a 400-page comic.
well, it's because so a lot of our time in the past has been recapping the entire story, and maybe it would be better to recap the entire story, but
There wasn't really one story to recap because it kinda
yeah. And
jumps, so
I think going through and kind of talking a little bit about each part is going to be better than us trying to just retell the story. Because I'd rather our listeners go out and read the book.
Mhm.
And that's the point of Sibling Rival-Read, is to read the book with us, and then we'll discuss what we thought about it, discuss some of our favorite parts and parts that impacted us the most, and things like that. Um, so story-wise, I usually do the rating on story, right, first.
First, yeah.
Um, this one's a tough one for me to rate because it wasn't one singular arc. So I want you to guys to keep in mind that there's the Brother Knight arc, for example, I would give a 10 out of 10. The the puppet arc, I would probably give like a 9 out of 10. Um, the arc with in the casinos with her cousin, I would probably give maybe a 9 out of 10.
I liked
Um,
her cousin in that arc.
yeah, I did too.
I really liked his introduction. It was a fun introduction to his character.
Exactly. Um, I think so. I'm going to try and rate this book overall, and I think there wasn't any arc that I was like, ugh, I don't want to read this, or any specific arc that I just, was not having fun.
Mhm.
Um, I think I'm going to give it. I really want to give it a 9 out of 10, but I think because it's not one solid, like consistent arc, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Um, and that's
Yeah.
again just kind of for the viewers as a whole, also because like you guys kind of deserve to have one singular arc if you're brand new to comic books. I think. I think. I think this was good. I think 400
Um,
pages is a lot.
yeah, and I mean, I was just scrolling back through it, and I honestly, for the story, because the last Brother Knight left you hanging so much, and then you still had like 2 or 3 issues after that that were not at all connected to what you actually wanted answers for,
Yep.
which was extremely frustrating for me. So not that I didn't enjoy the issues that followed, but I was so into the Brother Knight that I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Um, so I mean, for me, I think that it's a great introduction to her as a hero. It made me want to read more Zatanna.
Which we will.
So
We've got
it
more
did its
Zatanna on our
job.
list.
It did its job in that regard. It had some really cool villains that I want to get to know more. Um, I am a little bummed about how short some of the arcs were that I was interested in and how, like, abruptly that one ended. So I feel like I'm leaning towards a 7 or an 8, and I guess I'll go 7.
Okay.
Yeah. That's, like, average. It's a C. It gets a C just because, like, it did it for me to get me into it, but it didn't do it for me to make me feel like what I read appeased my questions.
Yeah, but we're gonna read a lot of comics that are like that, Anna.
Well, you don't get to influence my score.
I'm not trying to
I
influence your score. You said your score already. I'm keeping it as is. But the nature of comics does have a lot of cliffhangery things in them, and we're gonna
Yeah,
run
but I
into
mean
that.
but with those cliffhangery aspects, like with Nightwing and Batman and Superman and Spider-Man and all of them, you know where you can find it to pick it back up,
You know,
which I
I
mean
I know where we can pick it. Like, you just need to know what to look for.
but I'm talking about never mind. I'm talking
House of
like
M literally ends with all of the mutants on Earth except for a
but
select
it was
few
a finished
disappearing.
but it was a finished story arc. Like here, you got fragments of different story arcs, which again, I'm not upset about. It just you got fragmented, shortened story arcs that then one could have gone into more of, or that I wish it got into more of because I enjoyed them and I wanted to know more of it because I felt like some of it was too quickly resolved. Um,
That makes more sense than your. We
okay, well, I
didn't.
was saying the same thing. I just worded it
No,
differently.
no, no. That makes more sense. You being frustrated that some stories were shorter when they could have been dragged out longer is different than you saying, I didn't like that we didn't finish the Brother Knight story.
Whatever. They're both reasons why my score is a 7.
That's fine. Let's talk about art then. Tell me about the art.
So cover art 10 out of 10. Um um overall art, it didn't stand out super drastically. There were a handful of panels that I was head over heels in love with, that I felt kind of emulated the cover art, like I said, being kind of Art Nouveau in almost a style or in a way with the swirls and filigree almost with her hair and elements like that. Um, Overall, though, it was kind of just comic book art. I'll give it a little bit higher because I really, really did love the cover art, which I know we're not technically supposed to judge. And I'm also thinking about it in terms of, so I have a poster that's like a bunch of pages from a Nightwing comic all posted together, and it creates this one huge poster. And I would totally have something like that for the
Zatanna.
Satana, so I'll give it an 8 out of 10.
Okay. I think that's perfectly reasonable. Um,
Look, you're not gonna argue with me? No,
no,
joking.
I
Okay.
think I mean when it comes to art, like I am going to cede to to what you say a lot more, just because you know what you're looking at a lot more than I do. I look at that and I'm like, oh, pretty picture. Um, I I actually I would rate the art of this book a 9. Um, I would give it a 10 if all of the art were consistently like either the Brother Knight, the first Brother Knight arc, or
Mhm.
the puppet arc. If they were all like that, those were the arcs that like really grabbed me. And there was a lot of really good expressions made through the art
There
of
were, especially with Brother Knight, in my opinion.
yeah, especially with Brother Knight. And just like, you know, Zatanna in general. Like
Mhm.
she's not a hero that's gone through a lot of, at least it doesn't seem like she's gone through a lot of like pain and heartache, like a Peter Parker kind of thing or a Bruce Wayne kind of thing.
Mhm.
Um, but they still take a lot of care to just like give this character a personality. And I think
Yeah.
I think the
I'm
art,
interested more in her backstory because I mean, in the first one, they were all talking about how she loses everybody, and I'm like,
yeah, that's true.
so I think that she has a lot more of that tragic backstory that we just weren't privy to in this.
That's true. That is
But yeah,
a
which doesn't take away anything art wise, just as a
no.
yeah.
And like you said, like all of the cover art looked great, and like even looking at the the variant arts at the end.
I know I love all of the cover art. Honestly, like the cover art probably propelled my score a little bit more than it should have, but it's okay. And I think where for you it was, which you also haven't scored it yet, you haven't given it a
I
number.
did. I gave it a 9.
Oh, duh. I do know that. My bad. I guess I wasn't paying attention that well. Um, where you wish that it was like one style of art, for me, I think it benefited me for my scoring at least to have the subtle differences. Otherwise, I would find it kind of just generic comic book esque.
Yeah, that's reasonable. Um, I think I definitely want to read more of her, and
Hmm.
I think for those of you who are interested in reading more of her, I think we'll read it eventually in Rival-Read. But there's Zatanna and Black Canary have an arc. Zatanna has a solo arc in Bombshells, um,
Bombshells are just great.
and yeah, I think there's a lot of uh, good places that you can go for Zatanna still.
Mhm.
Um,
And she has cool content in terms of, like, her appearances in Young Justice, regardless if you remember her or not.
it's just been so long
Um,
since I've actually sat down and watched through Young Justice, and it's not like
no,
Star
I
Wars,
still
Clone
haven't
Wars,
seen the 3rd
or
season.
like things like that that I go back and rewatch.
Oh, no, I go back and rewatch it, but I still have yet to watch the 3rd season,
Hmm. Maybe
which
we'll
I
do
know
that while you're here.
is bad on me. Yeah, but, I mean, she's also in a few Justice League movies and things like that, and
Yeah.
DC, like we've talked about, I think does really great animated movies, which
DC has an animated Justice League Dark too, and she's in that.
yeah. So
Um, so lots of Zatanna content out there for you if you enjoyed this book. Um, Overall, I'm going to lean towards the 9 out of 10 for this book. Um,
Oh.
just because I really enjoyed it. 430 pages is a lot of comic to read and not have me wishing that I could read something else by the end of it.
That's valid. I'm gonna go with 8 out of 10.
Okay.
Mostly again, like I want I wanted more while I was reading it, but I did enjoy reading it.
Well,
And again, I'm excited to read more of her in the future.
so Anna's giving it a lower score because because it's doing what we want these comics to do, and that's to ask for more.
No! Oh my god. I said twist my words, and I pretty much said exactly what I said about the story, which freaking 10 minutes ago you were like, "Oh yeah, that's actually a good reason." And now it's not, sir. Apparently.
I'm giving you a hard time.
My head, if it was like a comic, it would be an explosion
Yep.
or steam.
It's like we're siblings or something. Haha. um, is next week's book is my book as well, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. Um, so next week we are reading Vox Machina Origins Volume 1. Um, this one is Dark Horse Comics. So not Marvel or DC. I guess technically it's kind of DC, but whatever. Dark Horse Comics. And it's for those of you who have watched other things on my Twitch channel or YouTube channel, you know I am big into D&D as well. Vox Machina Origins is the comic book prequel to Critical Role Season 1, essentially. Um, but it's a fun book to read still. Looking forward to reading it again and kind of hearing what Anna has to say about it as well. It's very different than the other stuff that we've been reading. This will be really outside of manga. This will be our first book that's not a superhero.
Which I'm
Um,
game. It sounds like it's gonna be very fantasy, which I love a good fantasy.
yeah, same
Weird.
here. So we'll be reading that and seeing what you think. Um, do you have any last things you want to add in, Anna?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Where can
I'm
people find
excited
you?
though for our last two comics this month.
Yeah,
They're both gonna be super fun.
yeah, they're gonna be good. And then we after this we'll start talking about what our comics for March are going to be.
Yep.
So, guys, thank you so much for watching. Anna, where can they find you on the? Where can people find you on the internet?
On the Instagram, Anna_Riddick, or my art account is A Riddick Designs. Funness.
There's an underscore in Aridic Designs, isn't there? Somewhere.
No. She said as she's looking it up.
While she looks that up, you guys can find me pretty much everywhere on social media. It's BenPai, ITSBENPAI. There's an
There is
underscore.
an underscore.
Yeah,
You looked it up. A Riddick_Designs.
yeah. Okay.
Woo!
Um,
I know who I am.
and guys, if you're watching on Twitch, thank you so much for stopping by. Remember, you can participate in chat while we're doing these shows every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to leave a comment, like, subscribe, all of that. And remember that you are also able to get this on any of your favorite podcasting services. You can essentially just go to our link tree slash sibling rival-read to get all of the places where you can find us. And guys, thank you so much. Make sure to keep your pull list nice and full. And until next week, as Anna likes to say, Shalom-Aste.
Exactly! Shalom-Aste!
Have a good one, everyone, and bye-bye.